Hi guys, it's Shanae and welcome back to my channel. And I see the chat is already quite busy. I'm so excited to be back. It has been for freaking ever. It seems like there's already some issues with the live, so we'll see how this goes. But yeah, for now I'm happy to be back. And I see we were wondering when we like where we left off. We left off at the end of chapter 25. So don't worry, I did locate where we left off. So hi. Unfortunately, I do have to give a little bit of a disclaimer that the cough has not vanished. I don't know when it's gonna go because it's been like 2 weeks, verging on 3, and it just will not leave me. Um, but I've really missed this high. So we're gonna see how long I can hold out. I'm hoping for an hour at least. But if not, well, okay. Like we'll try and push it for an hour, and then see if maybe we can do 2 depending. Let me just get a tissue to like muffle the cough whenever it does decide to strike. Okay, I am attempting to be prepared. The first one, praise. So yeah, apparently it's COVID, which is just great. Love COVID. But yeah, so I think should we give it like oh, and maybe if today goes okay, I'll try some uh tea, herbal tea or something for tomorrow. If there is a stream tomorrow. But yeah, we do not have ginger in my house. So this is gonna be interesting. But anyway, maybe hopefully once I start like talking, it'll subside a little bit. I feel like it's when I'm not talking that it's somehow worse. So just give me 2 seconds to try and clear my throat, and then I'm gonna get started. Sorry about this. Okay, so I just swear it just sits there and like annoys me and doesn't actually want to go anywhere. But yeah, so as you guys very well put it, we are on the bit where she literally just jumps off a building, so almost a literal cliffhanger. And let us just see if I can pull up the chat. I swear, like, you don't do this for 2 or 3 weeks and it's like you forget all about how to function. Thanks, I appreciate it. Okay, that should do it. I think we are ready to go. Can you guys see if I move it like that a little bit, or did I just alter the way you guys? I think it's fine. Okay. Chapter 26, Julian 25? Okay, yeah. With 45 seconds remaining on the countdown, the whole canopy of heaven suddenly froze. Then, under everyone's blank gazes, a photograph of a young man spread over it. He was 18 or 19, very ordinary looking, a little dark. His posture facing the camera was very cautious, but he was still smiling widely, showing all of his white teeth. The gaze of the woman on the rooftop encountered the beaming photograph without warning. She went still. She was straddling the railing with 1 foot in and 1 foot out, the wings on her back, fluttering in the night wind. What the woman saw, all the people gathering in the central square, to wait for the closing ceremony rehearsal also saw. Lowendraw had just finished searching a building and was exiting. He lifted his head and saw the transformation outside. He staggered and nearly rolled down the steps of the entrance. A criminal policeman next to him, meanwhile, sucked in a breath. Captain Law, the broadcasting rights must have been bought up. Can they suddenly change it like this? It's another smashed up car. Oh no, they're getting like war flashbacks. Oh no. Shut up. Lowendraw's steps didn't stop. He lifted his walkie-talkie. Group 1, respond. Have you found the car? Take notes of all the intersections. If the car's driver makes an appearance, seize him at once. Give Feidu the car's make, model, and license plate number. Have him throw it up on the screen. Encourage people to call in. Oh, that's smart, and I don't think they actually had that in the show. At the same time, in the Trade Center building's control room, a crowd of workers was so busy their feet didn't touch the ground. Is the recorder connected? Where's the video processor? Lights, lights, lights. Hey, look out for that wire. In the midst of this noise, Feidu was resisting the impulse to pace, forcing himself to stand unmoving in a corner. His leather shoes, which had at some point picked up a smudge, was tapping lightly on the floor. It seemed that the whole world contained an unhurried melody in 4/4 tempo that he could use any time to separate himself from all surrounding sounds. Suddenly, the lights came in front of him. Feidu looked up. President Fei, the equipment's ready. The woman on the rooftop stared greedily at the boy in the photograph for a long time. To tell the truth, it was a strange thing. His face was clearly ordinary. No one would look twice at him in the streets. But in her eyes, he was unspeakably adorable. Oh, why is that so freaking sad? I mean, I know why, but still, it is very tragic. His clumsy square chin was adorable. His very wide-set eyes were adorable. His sparse brows were adorable. Even his 2 front teeth, with a slight gap between them, was adorable. Hi, sorry, I missed that. Giving salaries, class stomachache, yeah. Salaried, fair. Well, that's not the worst way to spend money, at least. Yeah, no, I feel like with what Law and Joe was saying, it was basically, we're not talking about money when there's a person's life on the line there. So I really appreciate that. She could have looked at him for 10,000 years without seeing enough. Unfortunately, she couldn't. As soon as this thought arose, her memory surged up like a tide, slow but inexplicable, the gleam in her eyes like an obstinate reef being gradually submerged. She raised her head, wiped her eyes, and remembered. Zhongyi was gone. She clenched her teeth, preparing to step over with her other leg, hoping that they could reunite over there. Just then, the picture on the canopy of heaven dissolved and a video was inserted. The hastily put up background was a shark. Sorry. Not a shark. Was a stark white wall. A few lights shone on it from different angles, so bright they hurt the eyes. A young man wearing a black shirt appeared in the center of the screen. Likely because the equipment had been set up so quickly, it seemed that the aspect ratio wasn't quite right. He was a little unnaturally stretched out. Oh my word! Sorry, I can't help but laugh because thought that when I was watching it in the show, but I don't think I commented on it because everything can't be perfect. So the fact that even that detail was on purpose, like they just took adaptation to a whole new level. Sorry, to quickly answer today, have you read the case file compendium? No, I have not. I am kind of scared because I've heard that it is brutal, and I trust Kekter to know like what my level of tolerance is. But I'm so freaking curious because I absolutely adore Urha so far. And I did get, what's the other one? Remnants of Filth, which I'm hoping we'll be able to read as well. So whenever Case File Compendium comes out, I think it's February, I posted a link up on the community tab. But whenever it comes out, I am going to be ordering myself a copy, so we'll see if I can survive it. This was the young man she'd wanted to say goodbye to, but hadn't been able to wait for. The person on the canopy of heaven gently touched the microphone and spoke. Hello, Auntie. I haven't heard any news of you. For me, that's the best news. I want to try using this method to say a few words to you. If you can hear me, please grant me 2 minutes of your time and listen to what I have to say. Wang Shijun looked in some terror at the screen on which a person had just appeared. She was so bewildered her thoughts vanished. She could only subconsciously nod once. Then she remembered that they couldn't see each other. Luo Wenzhou was just crossing the central square, with his left ear listening to all the group's progress reports through his earbud, with his right ear paying attention to his surroundings. His attention divided, he commanded, "Find some people to maintain order in the central square. If there aren't enough people, ask the security guards to help. Don't let people around here call out anything that could disturb his state of mind." Oh, that's a good idea. On the big screen, Feidu spoke. Auntie, if my own mother was still alive, she would be about the same age as you. Luo Wenzhou heard this and subconsciously looked up at him, but even as he looked, his steps didn't stop. He quickly crossed the square's open ground, hurrying towards the next building. Group 3, the rooftops of the buildings overlooking the streets all have security cameras. You can check them directly, no need to waste time. Taran, take care to disperse the traffic over there. Group 4, come with me to the Eastern Gemini building. There are some floors under construction. It's a serious possibility. I really like how logical and methodical this is. Feidu's somewhat downcast voice relentlessly pursued his hurried steps. I came home more frequently than Zhongyi. After all, he had to work hard to save money to pay for your treatment, while I was only an idle student. Every weekend, she would change the flowers from fresh ones, pour out her efforts preparing my favorite things to eat, clean my room, air out my court. She didn't like having a housekeeper around, so she had to do all these things herself. Did you also air out Zhongyi's court for him? Past endurance, Wang Shijun let out a long sob, which was shortly picked up and drawn out by the wind. Drawn away. The sobbing wind swirled down from the building's rooftops, brushing past Luo Wenzhou's sweat-soaked temple like a sigh. That is a beautiful description, okay? Like super tragic, but very beautiful. But one day I came home full of expectation and opened the door. I found there was only a pile of dry twigs in the vase at the door. All the curtains were closed, and the rooms were full of a smell like death. When I reached her room, trembling with fear, What I found wasn't an aired out corpse, but a corpse. Feidu paused slightly. Not long ago, he said to me, my mother must have looked forward to me coming home every day. But back then, the policeman who worked the case told me the night before I came back, she killed herself. I came home at the same time every weekend. She knew that. This is painful. Like, that to me is always a strange thing with these kinds of circumstances, is not the choice to take the life, but oftentimes when people decide to do it, I find it often makes me question why then. But yeah, I think it's just one of those things where only the person will know. Goodness. Sorry. Okay. I've always wanted to ask you a question. What kind of mother would choose that time, leaving her corpse for a child to find on purpose? I thought every day about how to be good to you, how to make you happy, how to save money so I could pay for your treatment, how to repay the person who lent me the money for your surgery. I still haven't returned the money, and now I'm alone in a freezer and can't return home. Are you planning to leave me here? If you're all so heartless, then why did you act like you cared about us so much before? Oh wow, he's like really interweaving his story with Jong-Yi's story. Straddling the guardrail, Wang Shijun slowly crouched down. Feidu stopped for a moment, touched the microphone again, silently counting to 5. At the same time, in the corner of the image, the mysterious rental car's make, model, and license plate number appeared. Wang Shijun's education level was limited, and she couldn't make anything of the words and numbers, but the passerbys all around read them one after another, got out their phones, and spread the information to their friends and family. Captain Law, the Gemini building's construction team says they're using the weekend to overhaul the building's electricity system. They turned off the power over an hour ago. Lorenzo's back was soaked with sweat, making him experience something of what old Lian Po had gone through, wearing thorns to humbly apologize. Okay, there's a reference there that we might check out afterwards, but anyway. He would have liked nothing better than to part ways with his back, leave his spine responsible for his internal organs, and decamp, exiting the marriage without property. He looked up at the tall tower and clenched his teeth. Let's go up. Feidu was silent for a while, then, slowing his speech, broke off purposefully, confusion between himself and... What? Oh, sorry. Slowing his speech, broke off the purposeful confusion between himself and her Zhongyi. Auntie, the murderer hasn't been caught yet, and you don't understand any of the circumstances. Doing this in such a muddle, how do you plan to tell Zhongyi? I implore you, wherever you are now, could you come as quickly as possible to the square? We're all looking for you. We'll go catch the murderer together, and when he's caught, he'll still have to take Zhongyi home. And I still want to speak to you for a while. Could you give me another chance to pretend I'm seeing my mom? Wang Shijun at last began to wail. She cried her soul out. The courage that had made her want to throw herself into the city's face, flowing east into the sea with her tears. She once more weakened into a lost and nervous woman, who had just come to Yan City. When she looked down from on high, she suddenly even felt that her legs were a little weak. Wang Shijun turned her gaze away, but couldn't keep her footing. She tried grabbing the guardrail, wanting to draw her foot back in, but at the last moment, there was a great change. The seemingly firm guardrail was actually only loosely held in place. Wang Shijun was entirely unprepared. When she grabbed it, the broken railing swung out. She lost her balance and went falling backward. Wang Shijun's eyes opened wide. Her mind roared. At the last moment, a human figure flashed over and grabbed her foot, just held up by a half-loose railing. The woman struggled instinctively, and her thin ankle nearly slipped from his hand. Her weight pulled at Lo Wenju's arms, and his just sealed back instantly tore open as if he'd been split in two. Clinging to one thought, he held onto her and roared, "Don't move!" Fortunately, he hadn't come up alone. The people following quickly dashed over, and 3 minutes later, all working together, they had pulled up Wang Shenzhen, who had lost consciousness. Lo Wenju's ordinary... Oh, sorry. Sorry. Okay, I think that. Lo Wenju ordinarily felt that he could ascend to heaven and go 300 rounds of battle with Sun Wukong. But now he had overexerted himself so much that he could barely stand up. He staggered backward a few steps, then simply dropped inelegantly to the ground, gasping for breath, waiting until he heard someone say, "Captain Law, she's alive." His muscles tensed into a knot until then, released. As soon as he relaxed, Lo Wenju found the blood and sweat on his back had mixed together. Ooh, that's gonna sting. The pain made him suck in a shaking breath. Hell, I'm just about done for. Just then, Lang Chao's voice came over the walkie-talkie in his pocket. "Chief, a couple just reported seeing the suspect's car in the landscape park. The lights were on inside and they were afraid the murderer was still in there, so they didn't dare to go over." "A park? Where?" said Lo Wenju. "About a kilometer from the central square, I think. It's pretty deserted at night. No one but a couple sneaking around goes there." "That's not right. It can't be that far away," Lo Wenju said amidst the insistent pain. He closed his eyes. "Coordinate with the repair team, make them turn on the building's emergency power supply. Turn on all the security cameras. Position people to watch the cameras' blind spots. The murderer sent a lawyer to keep track of the investigation, and he kidnapped someone right from the city bureau. I don't believe he'd be willing to quietly hide away from everyone when he hadn't seen the outcome he wanted yet." Oh, that is unfortunately very true. Let's see what's going on with the comments. I hope they are... Okay, I see there was a comment deleted. I watched the episode first and the scene was fascinating. I loved the scene like that. Yeah, like I was also actually originally planning on just reading the books once the episode 8 ended. I wanted to wait a little bit because I was hopeful that we might still get the rest of the show. But then luckily we got to do it as read along, so I'm glad I waited. Oops. I'm so sorry. I don't know when this is gonna stop. Okay, so we kind of got through the first half an hour okay-ish. I don't think I'm gonna be able to do more than an hour, but we shall see. Chapter 27, Julian 26. These tall buildings presented icy exteriors. Their straight up and down trunks were oppressive. Their lobbies were usually floored in bright reflective stone, and the front desk attendants and security guards would fix their gazes on anyone who set foot inside. Each building had its own distribution of elevators. All the elevators had their own systems. Some couldn't go up, some couldn't go down. Some distinguished between odd and even floors. Some could only be used after swiping a card. And they formed a body unto themselves, often leaving strangers at sea, leading them to feel estranged from these resplendent little states. But the Gemini building was different. Even though it had already been completely redecorated, it was still as familiar to him as the palm of his hand. He had done an internship here for half a year, but afterwards he hadn't stayed, because they'd had to have an exchange student from a well-known school who only understood European and American legal systems. There was no comparing the present and the past. These people waving around attractive legal assignments could only review a basic contract. In order to handle any matters that required a very high level of specialization, they had to ask him to come back and act as an advisor. In this building, the intern Xiao Zhao had become Mr. Zhao with the wave of a hand. But each corridor, each stairwell, hidden in the shadows, was carefully recorded in his mind. Even if the power hadn't been turned off, he still had the assurance of being able to avoid the building's security cameras. But sadly, while all the conditions were perfect, someone had upset his plans. When he'd been mixed in with the crowd, ready to watch the splendid performance on the canopy of heaven, only to be interrupted midway by Fei Du, he'd flown into a rage. He decided almost at once that this was a base publicity stunt. Perhaps he was supporting his drinking buddy, and perhaps there was some commercial purpose. These people controlled assets and social resources that it was hard for him to imagine, even though each one was a blockhead, even though listening to an ordinary due diligence report could have them ready to pass out, yawning their heads off. If, through the efforts of countless experts, they could occasionally pretend to issue one or two obvious conclusions, then they would immediately be lauded as young geniuses. A policeman leading several security guards, temporarily hired to help with the evening's performances, hurried over to maintain order. Everyone, please don't hang around near the high-rises. We're still investigating the rooftops. There's a chance of danger here. Will you cooperate? Thank you. Sorry. It's for your safety. Hearing this, the crowd slowly moved away. No one noticed a fair and refined man turning and disappearing into the darkness. These dispersing the crowd here clearly indicated that they would soon come to search, and that stupid woman still hadn't jumped. He didn't know whether she'd gotten scared at the last moment, or whether she'd been hoodwinked by the pretty boy's inferior performance. In accordance with reason, he had a contingency plan. Only one side of the rooftop of Tower A faced the central square. He had fixed up the guard railing so that even if she hesitated at the last moment, the loosened guardrail would help her make her decision. That is so grim. We kind of knew that it was sabotaged, but the way that he frames it just sounds so cruel. His arrangements ought to have been foolproof. What had gone wrong? He had to go back to look. He considered briefly and pulled out a crafty idea. He didn't go into Tower A, but went around one side of Tower B, going in through the side door of a coffee shop on the ground floor of the office building. His familiarity went up to the... He familiarly went up to the emergency passage, specially provided for packages and fast food delivery people, running up to the 8th floor. There was an open-air corridor linking the two towers, connected to the 8th floor emergency stairs. There was a camera at the entrance to the open-air corridor, but that was all right. There was a wall of greenery on one side of the corridor, with enough space in the gap behind it for a person to pass through. It was a camera blind spot. Even though he knew that the Gemini building's power was off and the security cameras were all only for show, he still decided to take his prudence to the limit. Well, unfortunately, that is smart. The power being off truly was the best gift of fate could have given him. Feeling pleased with himself, he walked briskly through the greenery wall, failing to note that the wind of his passing had touched a plant climbing the wall and set it shaking. The greenery wall blocked the camera, and he didn't notice that the leaves trembled faintly. The security camera, which had been still as death, suddenly turned a very slight angle. I'm kind of living for this. I love seeing people who think they're super clever being outwitted. Lo and Zhou came down following the EMTs and saw Wang Shijun to the ambulance. He turned his head and saw Taran and a few criminal policemen escorting a delicate-featured man to a police car. This man, whom he'd seen once before, felt his gaze. His enraged, hateful look at once shot towards Lo and Zhou. Wait, so is that it? I kind of was expecting that we would see the moment that he was caught instead of it just cutting to him being taken in, like taken to the cars, basically. Karan gestured at him, raising the evidence bag in his hand. Inside it was a pair of gloves. Owenjo nodded, but put a cigarette in his mouth and looked the prisoner up and down. Why am I struggling so much? The man roared at him in outrage. I just came back to fetch a document. Why did you guys grab me? Do you have evidence? The police can't solve the case, so they just grab some innocent person off the street and stick him with the blame? Let go, you barbarians. If you wrinkle my clothes, you won't be able to pay for it. Wow, precious, said Lo and Zhou, cigarettes in his mouth. I'm so scared. Looks like the poor wretch will have to borrow some money from Daddy Faye. I was not prepared for that, and I don't know how to take it other than like Lo and Zhou just suddenly turning into a sugar baby. Oh goodness, okay, so sorry, that completely caught me off guard. Going well. Let me just quickly check something. Okay. Watching the man being forced into the police car, Lo and Zhou raised his hand and blew him a kiss. Bye-bye. He had just spoken when a hand reached over and rudely pulled the cigarette out of his mouth. Nang Chao's makeup had worn off long ago, revealing the circles around her eyes, picked up from running around half the night. So noticeable that there was nothing left of her face but her eyes. She casually threw the cigarette into the garbage can a few steps away, then pointed at the ambulance behind her. You get in there too. Lo and Zhou, ... You. Lang Chao criticized irritably. Hurry up and get in. Tomorrow behave yourself and stay in the hospital. Don't come back. I mean, your back was kind of torn open again. I think you do need to go. To be fair. With a sigh, Lo Wenjo said, Daughter, you aren't yet grown and already planning to seize your imperial father's authority. Lang Chao steamed at the ears, jabbing at him with a sharp finger. Hey, don't fuss. Lo Wenjo interrupted her. Do you know where President Fei went? Lang Chao froze. She subconsciously looked up at the canopy of heaven. It was already broadcasting the closing ceremony rehearsal. It had reached the end now, the fireworks so splendid they dazzled the eye. Though compared to the cops and robbers film from earlier, fireworks weren't at all that interesting. The surrounding crowd became bored and went to scroll through their social media. I don't know, I haven't seen him. Why do you want? Young child twisted her neck in a circle. When she had turned her back, Lo Wenjo was gone. This man just seriously does not want the self-care side of things to happen. Goodness, I love when Lo Wenjo being shameless. Yeah, no, it's a special kind of enjoyable. Joe picked up a jacket someone had left in a police car and threw it on, covering up the bloodstains. He called Feidu's phone. It rang, but no one picked up. Joe then strode over to the trade center and went in. First, he went to the control room, where he found the workers eating a midnight snack. He questioned them and learned that Feidu had already left. He clarified the approximate direction he'd gone in, then went after him, calling as he walked. In the end, he finally faintly heard the "You raise me up," that one ringtone. Oh, why did I do that? Sorry. I apologize for offending the ears. Ringtone behind the building. Lo Wenjo followed the sound and found the small garden surrounded by shrubs with some stone chairs and tables inside. By looking up, you could see the corner of canopy of heaven. There was no streetlights. Feidu was sitting on one of the blocks of stone, not worrying about getting dirty, leaning against a stone table. His phone was set down, playing like a public speaker. Lo Wenjo hung up the phone and went over. You want me to play a little song for you, is that it? Feidu didn't feel like paying attention to him. He closed his eyes, looking like he was already asleep. Lo Wenjo stiffened his upper body and sat down several steps away from him. Why don't you go see her? Feidu spoke indolently. Isn't she safe? The murderer loosened the guardrail on the rooftop, said Lo Wenjo. It was a close call. Feidu's hand, tapping out a beat, paused at once. Opening his eyes to look at Lo Wenjo, he just happened to meet his gaze. Lo Wenjo's face was haggard. When he sat, his back was unnaturally stiff. He looked as if he was half paralyzed. But there were two lights reflecting in his eyes, flickering slightly, not scorching. For a moment, Feidu felt this fairly familiar man became a little strange. Guys, is this the start, potentially, of Lo Wenjo seeing Feidu in a different light? Just maybe? His features were clear and handsome, his figure as good as before. His age wasn't very evident. If you said he was 30, people would believe it, and if you said he was 20, they would probably believe that too. Although Feidu knew that in reality he hadn't looked like this when he'd been just past 20. Back then, Lo Wenjo had been a true young master, deeply accomplished in cockiness, always showing off his cleverness and very unwilling to spare anyone's feelings. His exterior had resembled his interior, always having a flamboyant and domineering flavor of immaturity. But now, his outward appearance was like a stone carving that had been worn by passing ages. The originally blurred outlines had come clear, while the spirit floating on top had settled. Seen from a greater depth, it was unexpectedly almost gentle. That is an interesting description. And yet somehow it makes so much sense. How does Priest do that? Like, that's amazing. Anyone watched the on the like writing related video that I did for MXTX's novels, but I kind of low key want to do it for Priest and Meat Fun's novels as well. Just because it was a lot of work, but it was very fun, and it's so interesting to see the different ways that the authors communicate their concepts so well. Andrew shifted his posture slightly. What you said on the canopy of heaven just now, was that true? Fedu carelessly raised his eyebrows. Of course not. I was just blending my own experiences with hers, trying to establish an emotional connection. Don't lie. You absolutely were telling the truth. Rowanjoy hesitated for a moment. He had little experience speaking properly to Fedu. They had always entered the personal attack stage at the first misstep. He considered for a long time without settling on the appropriate wording, and could only continue as before, saying whatever came to mind. I investigated your dad back then, said Lowenjaw. This wasn't at all novel. A woman dies in her home without a sound, and her only child maintains that she didn't commit suicide. For insurance, aside from the forensic evidence, the people close to her would also have to be looked into slightly. Therefore, Fedu looked at him with a little impatient. What? Therefore, Fedu looked at him a little impatiently, wanting to make him stop saying useless things. In the process, I found that there was another group of people following him. I grabbed them and asked what they were doing, and found that they were a bunch of unemployed young men, calling themselves private detectives. Oh! I forgot about that. Like, I forgot that Lo and John knew it. You were the one paying them, right? Fredo's patience came to an end. He stood up to go. There was another time when you were doing your homework at Taran's house and left behind a few pieces of unused graph paper. There was an indentation on it, and I went over them with pencil and found that it was your father's itinerary. It was already more than 2 years after your mom's death. I thought then, these 2 years and more, had you always been keeping track of your dad's whereabouts? Lowenjaw paid no attention to Fedu's bearing, quietly saying, I thought that was horrifying. And then, when your father had his accident. Having heard this much, Fedu's steps paused. He was just passing Lowenjaw. Suddenly, he laughed silently. He looked down at Lowenjaw, his gaze a little dangerous, and asked, You expected it was my doing? Suspected, sorry. Lowenjaw looked directly into his eyes, which could throw out peach blossoms at any time, and couldn't help being moved. This brat really was well worth looking at. About the attempted murder of Fedu's father, and yet Lowenjaw still can't help himself and be like, damn, this kid's attractive. You know? I mean, same, but also... the casting for him, though, perfect, totally agree. I don't think they could have cast a better person for it. I genuinely like the casting choices for Windra. Oh, that's interesting. I don't know. I like both of them, and I really like the way, like the character chemistry. I think it was also strong, but I'm sorry. I will always have um just be a sucker for the like Shenwei, Feidu, that kind of character profile. I don't know why. It happens, and that actor is stunning. Not gonna lie, in my opinion. Um, Feidu bent slightly, put a finger next to his lips, and in a voice almost as quiet as a whisper, said to him, "It may very well have been me, Captain Law. Think about it. Whether he died or became brain dead, I was the only heir to his enormous property. As long as he hadn't reached the end of his words when Lowendrew suddenly forcibly interrupted his pretentious performance. This part in the show I enjoyed so much. He grabbed he grabbed his collar, pulled his neck down, and smacked him on the forehead with the palm of his hand. His palm was very hot. Feidu felt like he'd been hit by an iron. Stupefied, he backed up half a step. "I'm talking nicely to you. Why are you being so obnoxious?" said Lowenjo. I love them. Oh my. Feidu came around and angrily pulled at his collar. Who was the obnoxious one? Lowenjo's next words were, "But I suddenly thought, a person willing to open up his own chest in public to save a woman who was a complete stranger to him must not be a dangerous person. I was planning to apologize to you for all these years of prejudice and suspicion." Guys, character growth. We love to see it. Now the romance can start. I just we don't know when it's gonna like start, but I do feel this was a very important step moving in the right direction for them. Feidu froze, but before the sneer he was brewing had matured, he felt an entirely unexpected weight on his collar as Lowenjo heavily fell forward, right onto him. The fact that they managed to keep all of this in the show, I will forever be impressed by. Feidu instantly felt that he'd been wrapped up in a scalding electric blanket. After a blank pause, he tentatively touched Lowenjo's forehead with the back of his hand. It was burning, feverish enough to send up steam. Feidu pinched the edge of his jacket and lifted it to take a look. After that look, he immediately twisted his head away. He wanted to throw up again. He stood still in the strange position for a while, calmed his roiling stomach with difficulty, then stared expressionlessly at Lowenjo, as if he were considering whether the piece of pork belly would be better stewed or sauteed. I can't with them. Oh my goodness. Then he must have thought that this person was coarse and tough, the texture of the meat too old. Feidu gave a tisk of disdain, bent and tried out a few positions. He didn't want to carry him on his back or in his arms. He tried pulling him up over his shoulder, but belt, by his belt, but found that this bit of goods was rather heavy. Feidu tossed the unconscious Lowenjo aside on a stone chair, picked up his phone, which would soon be out of battery, and called Taran. "Hello, is this 110? In a tone that wasn't nice at all, he said, "I've picked up an old man and I think he's about to bite it. How do I hand him to the States? I'm over." I can't with them. I love that so much. Okay, let me just. Sorry. So, this is unfortunately a little bit early, but because we're at such a good stopping point with chapter 28, I think I'm gonna end it here for today. Um, and yeah, it kind of sucks. I just wished the cough would go away because I've really been missing doing the read-alongs. Um, I realized or like remembered that I'm going away next weekend, so I'm thinking of maybe doing um another hour tomorrow of um silent reading and then recording 2 hour sessions or pre-recording 2 hour sessions of Scum Villain to air while we're away. Just because I think that might be easiest, and then it's not like we're halting progress again, because this has just it's been so painful. I've been wanting to read so badly, and having to wait every time is just not great. So yeah, anyway, I hope that's okay. No, no, I get you. The actor for Fedu is great, but the actor for Law and Drawer is literally perfect for the role. He fit the role like he was born for it, and the chemistry was superb. I just honestly think that Priest's adaptations, even though they've had some like issues in terms of the commitment to adaptation and the casting for all of them, I think that they've been done justice, even if the story, like, sometimes went a bit off kilter or in Justice in the Dog's case was halted. Like, that is forever a sadness to me. Thank you, I appreciate it. And yeah, I will see you guys again tomorrow if all goes well for another hour of this, if you guys are up for it, and then we'll have normal videos of read-alongs for Scum Villain next weekend, and after that, hopefully everything will be back to normal, and I will also be done with my Korean, so I will have more time to dedicate to YouTube-related things, which will be good. So anyway, thank you guys so much for showing up for this hour. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you guys again next time. 再见。